In the distant outposts of the Zathari expanse, a human settlement clung stubbornly to the rocky surface of a barren planet, its domed habitats glowing faintly against the cold void of space. Among the settlers was Jackson Myers, a former Marine-turned-xenobiologist who had grown accustomed to the endless hum of life support systems and the distant cries of alien fauna. But nothing could have prepared him for the day the predator cub arrived. It began with an odd, piercing scream echoing across the settlement's outer enclosure. Jackson, who was cataloging local flora near the hydroponics bay, froze. The cry was high-pitched and raw. Pain, fear, and confusion rolled into one. He recognized it immediately as the signature call of a young predator from the Xylar species, notorious for their cunning and strength. Most settlers would have fled. Jackson ran. He reached the source, a jagged ravine where a small, trembling Xylar cub had fallen, its leg caught awkwardly between sharp rocks. Its dark, glistening eyes met his, filled with panic and something else, an instinctive recognition that this human might not be a threat. Jackson didn't hesitate. He assessed the fracture, murmuring soothing words while carefully shifting the rocks. The cub hissed, snapping its tiny, venom-tipped teeth, but Jackson persisted. His voice rose, not in anger, but in determination, a human roar against the backdrop of alien cries. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps approached. A pack of adult Xylars appeared at the edge of the ravine, their sleek black forms moving with predatory grace. They had been tracking their cub and now watched, wary, their ears flattening and tails stiffening. The air thickened with tension. One wrong move could trigger an attack that would leave Jackson a smear on the rocks. He turned slowly, keeping his eyes on the cub. "It's hurt. I'm helping," he said, his tone calm but commanding. The pack circled closer, low growls rumbling like distant thunder. Jackson could feel the old instincts kicking in, the ones drilled into him during his Marine training, honed in countless skirmishes with hostile creatures across the galaxy. He stood tall, shoulders broad, and let out another roar, loud and resonant, a sound born from the human chest that somehow carried authority even across species barriers. The effect was immediate. The Xylar pack froze. They tilted their heads, ears twitching, their growls fading into silence. Even the cub, still trembling, seemed to understand the sudden shift in the air. The human before them was not prey. He was something else, something formidable. Jackson knelt beside the cub, his hands gentle but firm. Using a quick, improvised splint from his field gear, he stabilized the leg. The cub whimpered but didn't struggle, almost as if it trusted him already. Jackson whispered soothingly, recalling the countless hours he had spent with injured wildlife back on Earth. The cub's large eyes blinked slowly, the tension in its body easing under the human's touch. Behind him, the pack remained stationary, their glowing mandibles catching the light of the twin suns. They watched Jackson closely, calculating, sensing something different in this human. Unlike other humans who had tried to hunt or trap their kind, Jackson's intent was not to harm. His heart, his roar, and his patience spoke a language older than words. Hours passed as Jackson fashioned a proper brace for the cub, using alloy rods and flexible polymer from his medkit. He named the little predator Kale, a name that seemed to suit the sharp intelligence reflected in its eyes. As he worked, Kale nuzzled his hand, a tiny but unmistakable gesture of trust. When he finally stood, Kale limped alongside him, the brace supporting its fragile leg. The adult Xylars approached slowly, circling the pair, sniffing the air. Jackson held his hands out, open, showing he carried no weapons. The pack lowered their heads in a silent gesture of acknowledgement. For the first time, they allowed a human into their sacred space, into the fold of their trust. Over the following weeks, Jackson's bond with Kale grew. The cub shadowed him everywhere, learning human gestures and habits, while Jackson learned the subtleties of Xylar communication, the flick of an ear, the arch of a tail, the cadence of a growl. Together they explored the outer rim of the settlement, often drawing curious, wary glances from other humans who had long feared the predators of the expanse. Then came the day of the ambush. A raiding party of rogue Xylar hunters, alien mercenaries, descended upon the settlement, intending to capture Kyle for profit. The humans scrambled, but Jackson and Kyle were ready. The Cubs pack had returned, rallied by Kyle's call, and this time they fought alongside Jackson with deadly precision. Jackson barked orders, directing settlers to safety, while Kyle and the pack intercepted the intruders. The fight was brutal and fast. Claws, teeth, and human ingenuity blended into a symphony of survival. In the chaos, Jackson roared once more, a thunderous sound that seemed to resonate with the will of every human and Xylar present. The raiders faltered, sensing a force larger than themselves, a unity of species, a display of what humans could inspire in even the wildest of predators. When the dust settled, the raiders lay defeated, fleeing into the void of space. The settlement remained intact, and Kale limped proudly, his eyes gleaming with respect for the human who had roared louder than pain itself. From that day forward, Jackson Myers was no longer just a xenobiologist. He was a symbol, a human who could speak the language of courage, empathy, and strength, proving that even in the cold reaches of the galaxy, one person could bridge the gap between species. Kyle, now grown and still bearing the brace as a mark of survival, would forever follow Jackson, a living testament to the day a human's roar silenced fear and commanded respect. The settlers spoke of it often, telling the story of the human who saved a predator cub and earned the loyalty of an entire pack. In the annals of HFY, humans are special. The tale of Jackson Myers and Kale became legend, a reminder that courage was not measured by size or species, but by heart and action. And somewhere in the Zathari expanse, the roar still echoed, a signal to all who would challenge humanity. There are humans who do not just survive. They inspire, they protect, and they command the wild with the sheer force of will.